Good morning, all of my friends in Galston and Great Yarmouth. I want you just to have a look at this video I took from Facebook today. I think in particular, as we've been meeting as friends recently, we've been saying that we need to come together as a community and stand together as a community that includes absolutely everybody. Well, look at this guy's experience when he was out on the streets where he lived this morning. And I think what he's saying is very, very valid. And I think it's also something positive, actually. Have a look. I'll catch his name towards the end of the video. I don't want to have to remake this again. But just listen. He was just walking to work this morning.
Into work, walking through Uxbridge, in this very spot just behind me outside the Civic Centre, I was stopped by a group of people who asked me if I would sign their petition to stop the boats. When I declined, there was instant suspicion. Then the jeering and swearing began. You dickhead, you lefty dickhead, you want these migrants to come over here and rape our women and children. This is an absurd thing to say to somebody that you don't know in the streets. And it is, of course, untrue. There is no credible evidence anywhere to suggest that migrants are disproportionately committing these crimes. It is a much deeper rooted issue of male violence committed against women and children across the country, and it needs to be dealt with properly, effectively, and sensibly. But going out there and blaming migrants in this way, scapegoating them and othering them, is extremely disingenuous and very dangerous and unfair. And the truth is that there's such a visceral hatred towards them, to minorities, to migrants and refugees, that anybody now who disagrees with you is met with that same intolerance. This today is, of course, shocking. This type of thing you would see in the bowels of the internet many years ago, and it's now spilling out onto the street here. And this is the type of language that I see online, people gleefully suggesting that we should gun people down in the Channel. Where is our humanity? Where are those British values of inclusiveness and tolerance and openness that help define this country? We're heading in an extremely dark direction, and it's being promoted by people on the right and far right in parties like the Conservatives and Reform, who are using it as a wedge issue to divide us, and it's going to take us to a very dark place. In the 1930s in Nazi Germany, they used language just like this to divide us, to convince people that other people were a problem and that they were an issue that needed to be dealt with. You know where that ended. We cannot afford to go down that path. We must cool this situation. We must come together under the values that define Britain, and we must solve this problem together.
I was going to tell you who it was by, and I can now because I had a look at the end of the video. It's by a man called Jack Dart. I don't think, if you listen carefully, he actually says where in the country he was. It was simply this morning on his way to work. I think the good news, listening to people like Jack, is that there are good people in this country, the UK, who actually want to stand up for the values of tolerance, inclusion, and just being human, if you like, that exist in our society. Obviously, Jack, like many of us, is just one of those people. They really don't want to scapegoat others and weaponize them to the extent that these people whom he encountered are doing. The thing about the visceral hatred, I know many of you will have experienced it. I've experienced it, certainly in my past. I've certainly experienced racist abuse in my teens. The political climate was different then, but I've experienced it. I know what it is like. So I want you to take something positive from what Jack said. I want you to know that actually, in this country, I don't believe that the majority of people feel that. I certainly don't. The problem is, those who do are very vocal, their hatred is visceral, and the old story applies here, I think. Wasn't that the saying that the squeaky wheel gets the most oil? Bye.